Have you done ayahuasca?
Never done ayahuasca.
So I have multiple clients, high net worth clients. I don't know why, but like the wealthier you get, the more people start asking these questions about like consciousness and connection to the universe and whatever else. So I've had several high net worth, ultra high net worth clients that I serve that are worth, hundreds of millions of dollars. And over again, they go on some kind of journey. It's called a journey. They go on a journey with ayahuasca. Sometimes they do it in Utah. Sometimes they do it in South America. Sometimes they do it in Europe, right? But the feedback that these guys have, guys and gals, is really incredible. It's just like you're saying, like they come to grips with the childhood trauma that led them to be high achieving. They realize things about themselves that they describe as being like the shredding or the breaking of some sort of limitation that they built in themselves to keep them from the truth of what they've done, experienced, or never accepted about themselves, right? Like all these things in the world of self-actualization, which lead then to this plane of consciousness, where now during the trip, during the journey, they can connect with each other without words, right? They connect emotionally, they connect on spiritual levels, even though they believe in different gods or whatever else. So they connect on a consciousness level, telepathically, spiritually, emotionally in the journey, but then also when they get out of the journey, because now the barriers that they've had are shredded. Mm-hmm. So now when they are with each other, they're like, there's nothing to hide here. Mm-hmm. And that gives them a level of freedom with the other people who they've journeyed with that doesn't exist with people who they haven't journeyed with. Mm-hmm. So it's been, for me, 10 years ago, when I was still part of CIA, if you would have talked to me about consciousness, remote viewing, ayahuasca, I'd have been like, you're a fucking hippie. Like, doesn't make any sense. That's all hibbity-bibbity bullshit.
Yeah.
And now that I've worked with enough rich people and seen the output, seen what happens after they go on their journey, now I'm like, when am I going on a journey? Who's going with me? Like, who am I going to shed these layers with? And what is this consciousness thing? I've now investigated with History Channel the question of consciousness. I've seen the energy exchanges that happen between people. I've seen the energy exchanges that happen between people and inanimate objects like fucking trees and dirt and grassy fields, right? It is so, the energy transfer is so real and so measurable. We are stupid to not be asking the question, what is consciousness and what is its implication for the future?
What would be an example of something that you saw that you were like, whoa, this is bizarre?
So on our research, we went to a haunted mountain, essentially, in an Indian reserve called the Navajo Nation. So I myself come from a Navajo background. We had clearance to work with a Navajo elder and a Navajo medicine man to go to this mountain that the Navajo people said was cursed and was off limits to all Navajo. So we went through the whole bureaucratic process of being able to get clearance to go to this mountain. We did this in 2022. Yeah, 2022. And went up on this mountain. I went up there the first time, early part of the day. I went up on the mountain with just the medicine man. We went up there. We took energy readings of electromagnetic activity. We took radio signature readings. We took radiation readings. We took communication readings from the top of this haunted mountain, right? It was called, what was it? The Devil's something. I forget what they called it now. And we got all these baseline readings, right? High radiation, low levels of communication, not a lot of activity in the electromagnetic spectrum. We leave. It's like 10 o'clock in the morning. We leave, go get my partner, the Navajo elder, and like 2 other researchers. We bring them up on the same mountain, Satan's Butte. That's what it was called, Satan's Butte. Same mountain, about an hour and a half later, right? Same day. We pull out the same tools to show them what the baselines are, but the baselines are all different. Now, there's higher electromagnetic energy. There's higher radiation. There's an incredible amount of activity on the communication spectrum. And it doesn't make any sense at all. Why is it that when there's 2 of us up there with the same 4 devices, we get 1 reading? An hour and a half later, there's 5 of us up there with the same 4 tools, and we get completely different readings. We record everything. It's all captured on camera. It's all documented. You'll find it all on YouTube. I'm pretty sure if you YouTube Satan's Butte, beyond Skinwalker Ranch, you'll actually see that clip. We take it back to our science team in Utah, an astrophysicist and a career researcher. We take it back to them and we're like, we can't make sense of this, right? What's happening here? And our lead physics study, our lead astrophysicist looks at it and he's like, I think what's happening here is that you're having a collective consciousness reaction with the environment. Meaning that when it was just me and the medicine man, we created a level of energy between the two of us. Cerebral energy, literal brain energy. His brain creates an electrical signature. My brain creates an electrical signature. When we are in proximity with each other, the two electrical signatures collect. It's why you get along with some people, don't get along with other people. It's why some people make you feel good, other people make you feel sick to your stomach, right? That's energy. Hippie energy, but measurable, because it's measured in the brain and the electromagnetic efforts of the brain. When the two of us were up there, we created a signature that did not react with the mountain, the rocks, the dirt, the foxes, the rabbits, everything else on the mountain, right? When we left and brought back 3 additional people, our 5 brains created an energy signature that did react with the mountain. And that's why the measurable readings were different, right? So that was the astrophysicist's theory about why our readings were different, even though we were in the same place in about the same time with the same 4 devices. That's an example for me that completely turned the dial on this question of consciousness. If not for collective consciousness, meaning the shared experience of 5 electromagnetically powered brains all interacting with each other and interacting with the environment, if not for that, what could explain multiple energy readings changing in the same area?
Yeah, I mean, that is awesome. Is that a thing? Like, is this like verifiable in terms of like other research? Can someone look this up?
Absolutely. So not only did we found that ourselves in Satan's Butte, in an area that was considered to be cursed by the Navajo people, right? But we have seen similar events happen in other areas that are also deemed to be areas of strange phenomenon, UFO sightings, haunted sites, whatever. It's starting to look like what's happening is we overlay a label onto these environments that are sensitive to collective consciousness. We layer them, or we label them haunted, or we label them hotspots, or we label them UFO, or we label them whatever we have to label them to explain the fact that the environments change when people are present. Scientifically, that's the theory that we are starting to devise. It's not that ghosts are real. It's not that aliens are real. They may be, but what we do know is measurably demonstrable, at least through our investigation with Beyond Skinwalker Ranch, is that we're starting to see that when people are present in these locations, the locations change. It's very similar to what you and I were talking about when you talked about the dual slot experiment, right? How is it that a light source, how is it that light photons streaming through a box with a slit in it, how is it that those photons respond differently when they're being looked at than when they're not being looked at? That observer effect. Well, if you think about it, once you observe something, you're putting power into the thing that you're observing. That power is energy. If it's your eyes or your mental state, you're putting your focus on it, you're actually literally flooding it with your own cognitive electrical impulses from your brain. If you're putting a camera on it, if you're putting an audio device on it, now you're actually directing a sensor at it. Those sensors also come from legitimate power sources. So it's only when you don't put any observers on it that it responds differently. Why is that? It's because of energy, right? Just like, I mean, dude, you and I there's countless examples that people can pull off the top of their head, just like you and I were talking. How is it that you know what your dog is feeling when your dog can't speak to you? How does your dog know what you're feeling when you can't speak to it?
How can you tell when you're being looked at? Isn't that weird?
It is, right? How is it that we have these moments where we say something that somebody else is thinking, and then they are like, I was just thinking the same thing. How do these moments happen? Is it really just that coincidences happen at that frequency? Or is it that there is some kind of shared consciousness, something that happens on a level that's so animalistic because it's so natural that we haven't even discovered it yet, right? Just like people don't understand how the human eye develops. They still call the eye a miracle. People don't understand how like a baby's genome is defined by its two parents. There's all sorts of things about science we don't understand. That doesn't make them make-believe. Hell, we used to call science magic.
Yeah. Yeah. People are like, there's tiny little men getting in my body, making me sick. And it's like, yeah, germs are real. But for a long time, people didn't believe it.
Right.
Yeah. It's an interesting idea. And I was kind of telling you a little bit before, like I sometimes extrapolate like life philosophy based off these ideas, rightly or wrongly, I have no idea. But like, I am very conscious about like the people I'm around. And I try to be around like good vibes. And it's like, it sounds super dumb and hippie, but more you kind of hear about these things, you're like, wait a second, are atoms being near each other? They start to like mirror each other and we respond to similar things? Or like, I mean, how often do you think of someone and then they text you and you're like, maybe these coincidences are just weird, or maybe makes you wonder like, oh, maybe our atoms are in some way like, entangled.
It takes me right back to public school science class, man. When we learned about an atom and you got the periodic table of elements, and the periodic table of elements tells you how many neutrons, protons, and electrons are in every element.
Mm-hmm.
But when you actually go to measure the electrons in an atom, you can't find them.
Right.
And science has always wondered, like, where do the atoms go? Mm-hmm. Why is it that when you try to observe and take a picture of or capture an atom, you can't see the electrons, but you know that the electrons must be there because of the laws of physics? Mm-hmm. Does that mean that if you can't see an electron, if an electron isn't where it's supposed to be, where is it? And is it doing the same thing that we just talked about with the photons in that box, that slit experiment? Are they somewhere else at the moment that they're being observed? Is the observation of them what's forcing them to be somewhere else? Mm-hmm. Could it be that on all that whole table of periodic chart, that whole table of elements, there's really only like 5 collective electrons and they're all just everywhere at once?
Sharing each other?
You know what I mean? Is it kind of like a giant like men's group where they share 5 girlfriends? What is going on?
Yeah, it's really strange, dude. I don't know.
So fresh, son.